It's official. Today, the Indiana Attorney General is investigating the doctor who performed an abortion on a 10-year-old rape victim. This after the AG got burned for making some reckless comments on TV about the doctor. And as the doctor, Caitlin Bernard, is speaking out for the first time in a TV interview. Now, regardless of what your stance is on abortion and the politics surrounding it, I would think we should all be asking, why in the world is the Indiana Attorney General, Todd Rokita, now doubling down on his factually discredited comments? Now, here's how it went down. Remember this? Monday, June 27th, 3 days after the Supreme Court ruling overturning Roe v. Wade. Dr. Bernard receives a call at her Indianapolis clinic from a child abuse doctor in Ohio who had a 10-year-old patient who was just over 6 weeks pregnant. Ohio had outlawed any abortions after the 6-week mark on the same day the Supreme Court overturned Roe. And while there are some narrow exceptions, rather than test the law, the mom decided to take her daughter to Indiana, where it was clearly legal. On June 30th, Dr. Bernard performed an abortion on the child. On July 1st, the Indianapolis Star published Dr. Bernard's story as part of a larger piece on the aftermath of the Roe decision. It quickly went viral, especially among those on the left. On July 8th, even President Biden mentioned it while condemning the Supreme Court's decision. But then, some, mostly on the right, began to question whether the story was actually true. Now, it did seem a little too perfect for the time. On July 9th, the Washington Post fact-checker published an article with the headline, "A one-source story about a 10-year-old about an abortion goes viral," concluding that the anecdote was all but impossible to verify. Except, 4 days later, on Wednesday, July 13th, the Columbus Dispatch published a story announcing, quote, "Arrest made in rape of Ohio girl that led to Indiana abortion, drawing international attention." It turns out that the suspect, 27-year-old Herson Fuentes, was in the country illegally. Now, one would think that those who questioned the story would correct their error, and maybe you'd expect them to also pivot to the immigration status of the suspect, and they did that. But some on the fringe right still remained focused on attacking Dr. Bernard. That same night, Fox News' Jesse Waters program, which had essentially called the story a hoax just 2 days earlier, reported that Dr. Bernard was under investigation for violating the victim's privacy in violation of HIPAA, even though she never mentioned the girl's name or any personal information about the victim. On the same show, the Indiana AG came on and suggested that the doctor may have committed a crime by failing to report the abortion of someone under 16 years of age.
We have this abortion activist acting as a doctor with a history of failing to report. So we're gathering the information, we're gathering the evidence as we speak, and we're going to fight this to the end, including looking at her licensure if she failed to report. And in Indiana, it's a crime to not report, to intentionally not report.
Well, what is he fighting? Dr. Bernard's license in Indiana is active with no disciplinary history. And yes, there was a timely terminated pregnancy report made public from the Indiana Department of Health filed on July 2nd, within the 3-day time frame from the date of the abortion, which the state requires. Dr. Bernard's employer, Indiana University Health, issued a statement saying she did not violate any privacy laws. And then Dr. Bernard's attorney announced this on MSNBC.
We sent Mr. Rokita a cease and desist letter demanding that he stop smearing my client and falsely accusing her of things that she hasn't done.
But Rokita apparently saw this as an opportunity to appeal to his base, saying the cease and desist letter was an attempt to distract from his office's efforts to determine whether Dr. Bernard had violated any laws. Now look, you can investigate without going on TV and making comments which suggest you know something that you don't. Dr. Bernard responded by filing a notice that she may file a lawsuit against the AG. And all of that brings us to this week. On Tuesday, the same day Dr. Bernard gave an interview to CBS News, and 2 weeks after Rokita threatened an investigation on Fox News, Dr. Bernard's lawyers say they received an official notice stating that the AG's office was launching an investigation into her conduct. Here's Dr. Bernard speaking to CBS's Norah O'Donnell.
Indiana's Attorney General Todd Rokita described you as an abortion activist acting as a doctor. How do you respond to that?
I'm a physician. I've spent my entire life working to have this position, to be able to take care of patients every single day.
Did you at any point violate privacy laws?
No.
And have you failed to report any recent abortions?
No.
Today, Rokita's office sent us this statement that said, in part, quote, "The doctor alone brought this case to the press. She used a 10-year-old girl, a child rape victim's personal trauma, to push her political ideology. She was aided and abetted by a fake news media who conveniently misquoted my words to try to give abortionists and their readership numbers an extra boost. My heart breaks for this little girl. As the Attorney General, I'm duty-bound to investigate issues brought to my attention over which I have authority, especially when they involve children. As I said originally, we will see this duty through to verify that all of the relevant reporting and privacy laws were followed by all relevant parties." Now, at least in the television and video front, his words were generally quoted by playing the sound of him making his comments on Fox. So I don't know how he would have been misquoted there. Bernard's lawyer, Kathleen Delaney, responded saying, quote, "We're in the process of reviewing this information. It's unclear to us what is the nature of the investigation and what authority he has to investigate Dr. Bernard." And I'm wondering the same thing. The AG has to be very careful here. It's starting to feel like he's trying to dig himself out of a hole he created. And again, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, what's really dangerous here is you have the Attorney General of Indiana, the highest law enforcement officer in the state, making sloppy, inflammatory claims on national television, and now appears to be looking for a way to back it up. But joining me now is Karen Freeman Wilson, former Attorney General of the state of Indiana. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time. Let me ask you, just in terms of the investigation, what authority does the Indiana Attorney General, your former position, even have with regard to an investigation here?
The Attorney General handles medical licensing for the state of Indiana. But when you talk about the authority in this specific case, Dan, there really isn't any authority. It is very clear that the initial comments that Attorney General Rokita made were speculative. And that speculation may very well land him in hot water, but notwithstanding that fact, any speculation that he made about whether a report was filed, about whether or not there were HIPAA laws violated, have been cleared up. And so anything that he is doing beyond that is baseless.
My understanding is he mentioned criminal, right? It wouldn't even be his office who would be investigating any possible crime, right?
He has no authority over criminal cases in Indiana. He does have authority over criminal appeals, but he is not in a position to bring a criminal complaint against the doctor or anyone else. That would be the local prosecutor.
And what do you make of the threat by her lawyer to potentially sue him here? You think that that's actually likely?
You know, I certainly think that they have a claim that is worth exploring. Here is someone who has defamed a doctor who has provided care in a very tragic case. And to the extent that that care was provided, it was done in accordance with the state law. It was done in accordance with the Hippocratic Oath. And now the Attorney General is maligning this physician. That seems to be a classic case of defamation.
I don't get why he doesn't just focus on, the immigration status, right? You want to have an issue to raise and to debate and discuss the immigration status of the suspect. That seems to me to be a fair discussion. It's something that conservatives care about. I would think that the Attorney General could talk about that more broadly, but instead he's so hyper-focused on the doctor here, not the victim, not the perpetrator, but the doctor in the neighboring state who performed the abortion legally. It's just a little bizarre, this focus on her.
Well, I think that his effort to focus on the doctor is really using the issue of reproductive justice as red meat for his base. And that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because of the nature of this tragedy in the first place. And it's unfortunate because this is the chief legal officer of the state of Indiana. And you ought to have confidence that she or he, in this case, he, will fulfill the law to the best of his ability. And he is politicizing the law.
There was a misconduct complaint filed against him. Serious problem for him?
I think it's something that is certainly worth paying attention to on his part. He made a number of statements. He made them publicly. They were not grounded in any facts. And so now he has to answer to that complaint.
Yeah. All right, Karen Freeman Wilson, thank you very much, former Attorney General of Indiana, for coming on the program. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan, for having me.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.